My family mortgaged their future for my brother. Now they want me to sacrifice my wedding for him. Well, I need to vent. I need to scream into the void where 1,000 strangers might actually get it, because the people who are supposed to love me the most, they see me as a utility, a resource. In the family ecosystem, my older brother Liam is the rare, protected. My family mortgaged their future for my brother. Now they want me to sacrifice my wedding for him. Well, I need to vent. I need to scream into the void where 1,000 strangers might actually get it, because the people who are supposed to love me the most, they see me as a utility, a resource. In the family ecosystem, my older brother Liam is the rare, protected. My family mortgaged their future for my brother. Now they want me to sacrifice my wedding for him. Well, I need to vent. I need to scream into the void where 1,000 strangers cherished golden goose who doesn't actually lay any golden eggs. And I'm the sturdy, reliable workhorse that pulls the cart and gets fed the bare minimum of oats. For years, I've accepted this role. I've been the financial duct tape holding my parents' house together. But they just tried to pull the most audacious, entitled, brain-meltingly stupid stunt yet, and it's finally made me snap. Let me back the hell up. My name is Maya. I'm 28 years old, and I'm engaged to the most wonderfully normal, sane man on the planet, Ben. Our wedding is in June. I should be up to my eyeballs in stress about floral arrangements, debating the merits of a live band versus a DJ, and trying to remember to drink enough water so my skin doesn't look like a crumpled paper bag on the big day. Instead, my every waking thought is consumed by the relentless, exhausting circus that is my family. The main performers in this three-ring shit show are my older brother, Liam, 31 going on 13, my mom, and my Aunt Carol. Aunt Carol is my mom's sister, a widow with no kids of her own, who moved in with us when I was a kid and never left. She's the enforcer, the head cheerleader for Team Liam. My dad exists in the background, a silent, ghostly presence who has mastered the art of being in the room without actually being present. And then there's my younger sister, Chloe, 26. She's my partner in arms, the only other person who grew up in the same house and saw the blatant, ridiculous favoritism for what it was. My whole life, they've treated Liam like he's the sun, and the rest of us are just planets. Cold, rocky bodies destined to orbit his glorious light. The funny part is, I wasn't the only one who saw it. Chloe has been calling it out since she could form complete sentences. The difference is, they never listened to her either. They just labeled her difficult and dramatic, and learned to tune her out. I was the easy one, the reasonable one, which in their language meant I was quieter about my resentment, and more likely to just go along to get along. I can trace the genesis of this dynamic back to a single crystalline memory from my childhood. I was turning 10. My birthday party was a simple affair in our backyard. Cake, a few friends, and presents. The big gift from my parents was a new, sturdy, navy blue backpack for school. It was fine. It was practical. I was a little disappointed, but I smiled and said thank you. 3 months later, it was Liam's 13th birthday. His gift wasn't just a gift. It was an event. It was the newest, most powerful gaming console on the market, plus a stack of games. It cost probably 5 times what my backpack did. I remember the confused knot in my little stomach. I looked at the shiny box, then at my mom, and asked the innocent, fatal question. Why did Liam get such a bigger present than me? My mom didn't even blink. He's a teenager now, Maya. His needs are more complex. It's a different stage of life. Chloe, who was 9, and had the moral clarity of a tiny, furious judge, piped up from behind a mouthful of birthday cake. Since when is playing Zombie Storm a complex need? Maya needed a backpack for her actual school books. Aunt Carol, who had been beaming at Liam, swiveled her head like a predator. Don't you be disrespectful, young lady. Your brother has a lot on his mind. He needs an outlet. That was her mantra, her get-out-of-jail-free card for him for everything. He has a lot on his mind. Anytime Liam broke something, failed a test, or was just a general jerk, it was because he was deep, or sensitive, or under pressure. A year later, I used all the birthday money I'd saved from my grandparents to buy a beautiful, collector-grade porcelain doll. She had intricate lace on her dress, and real, painted eyelashes. I was obsessed. I saved for months, and finally bringing her home felt like a triumph. Liam took one look at her, decided she was creepy, and 2 days later, thought it would be a hilarious experiment to see if she could fly. He launched her off the porch railing. She didn't fly. She shattered on the concrete walkway below. I remember the sound. I remember the way the pieces of her delicate face scattered. I burst into tears, scooped up the fragments, and ran to my mom, my heart feeling as broken as the doll. She was in the kitchen, and she sighed this long, weary sigh, like I was the one inconveniencing her. Oh, Maya, you know Liam gets carried away. You shouldn't have left it somewhere he could get to it. Chloe, my tiny, ferocious witness, was right there. He didn't get carried away, Mom. He took it from her room. He smashed it on purpose. He should have to buy her a new one with his allowance. Aunt Carol's face pinched up like she'd bitten into a lemon. How can you be so cruel? He was just playing. He's a boy. He didn't understand its value. So Liam faced no punishment, no consequence. I lost my precious doll. Chloe got a lecture on compassion and family loyalty. And life moved on, with Liam's needs and feelings always taking precedence. By the time we hit high school, the pattern was set in granite. It was no longer just about presents. It was about expectations. Liam brought home a report card that was a sea of C's and D's, with a single, solitary B in gym. My mom acted like he'd just graduated summa cum laude from Harvard. She literally framed the report card and hung it in the hallway. "I'm so proud of him for really applying himself this semester," she declared, and we all went out for steak. A month later, Chloe and I brought home identical report cards, straight A's. Mine was in advanced placement classes. We were met with a casual, "That's our girls. We knew you could do it." And that was it. No fanfare. No dinner. That night, lying in our shared bedroom, Chloe muttered into her pillow, "So he gets a framed certificate and a T-bone for managing to not fail, and we get a verbal pat on the head for actually excelling. The math is not mathing." I laughed, a hollow, tired sound. "Just don't say anything. It's not worth the energy." But she was right. The bar for him was on the floor. The bar for us was in the stratosphere. Then came the car situation. When I turned 16, I was allowed to use the family minivan, a beige boat of a vehicle, but only if Liam didn't need it, which he always did. One weekend, he dented the passenger side bumper, pulling out of a crowded mall parking lot. He came home, tossed the keys on the counter like a conquering hero, and went upstairs without a word. The next morning, my mom cornered me. "Maya, you need to be more careful with the van. You're setting a bad example for your brother." I was baffled. "What are you talking about? I didn't drive it yesterday." She waved a hand dismissively. "Well, you're always so mouthy about it. Just be more responsible." Chloe, hearing this from the stairs, came to my defense. "Mom, he dented the car." "Liam, why are you blaming Maya?" My mom shot her a look that could freeze lava. "You don't know what you're talking about. Your brother is under a lot of pressure." That phrase, "under pressure," was just another excuse on the long list. Pressure from what? From existing? The pinnacle of their enabling, the moment that truly set the stage for the current financial disaster, was college. Liam, who had barely scraped through high school, decided he was destined to be a tech entrepreneur. He had a brilliant idea for an app that would, honestly, I don't even remember. It was something vague about social networking for pet owners. My parents, convinced their son was the next Mark Zuckerberg, took out a second mortgage on their house, the house they'd spent 20 years paying off, to send him to an expensive, out-of-state private university with a good business program and to fund his startup costs. He lasted 3 semesters. He flunked out of 3 out of 5 classes his first semester and spent the rest of his time and their money on parties, a new laptop he didn't need, and networking at bars. The startup never got past a poorly drawn logo. The money, tens of thousands of dollars, was gone. I remember sitting at the dinner table after he'd been home for a few weeks, the air thick with his failure. I tentatively asked, "So what's the plan now? How are we dealing with the financial situation?" Aunt Carol jumped in before Liam could even open his mouth. "Don't you dare criticize him. He's finding his path. It's a competitive world out there." Chloe, who was visiting from her dorm, dropped her fork with a clatter. "Finding his path. They just flushed a house's worth of equity down the drain for a path that led to the couch. And we're not supposed to be upset? Unbelievable." Mom told her to watch her mouth and show some family support. Meanwhile, Liam moved back into his old bedroom, slept until noon, and cycled through a new passion every other month. Day trading, real estate wholesaling, podcasting. Each one requiring a little more seed money from my depleted parents. When I finished my degree in accounting and landed a stable, well-paying job at a solid firm, my parents were on the precipice. The payments on the second mortgage were crushing them. The calls from collection agencies were starting. I saw the fear in my dad's eyes, the constant tension in my mom's shoulders. I felt a sickening pull of obligation, so I stepped in. I told them I would start sending them $1,000 a month to help cover the mortgage. It was a massive chunk of my take-home pay. I didn't do it because they demanded it. I did it because I couldn't stand the thought of them, in their late 50s, losing the home they'd worked for their entire lives. I did it out of a twisted sense of duty, the one they'd drilled into me. Chloe found out and called me immediately. "Maya, no, do not do this. You are just enabling them to enable him. You're putting a Band-Aid on a gangrenous wound. They will never learn." She wasn't wrong. I knew it in my gut. But I felt responsible. I was the successful one, the stable one. Surely that came with obligations, right? The gratitude I expected never came. The first month, I got a brief text. Transfer received. Thanks. The second month, nothing. The third month, my mom called to ask if I could send it a few days early, because a payment was due. I wasn't added to the deed. There was no promissory note, no promise that the money would ever come back to me someday. I was just dependable Maya, the reliable wallet. Meanwhile, Liam kept living there, mostly rent-free. He'd occasionally toss them a couple of $100 when he had a good week driving for a food delivery app, and my mom would talk about it for days. Liam contributed to the groceries this week. He's really turning a corner. Aunt Carol still called him her brilliant boy. Mom kept making excuses for his lack of a real job. Dad hid behind his laptop, working longer and longer hours. Chloe built her own life farther away, visiting less and less. She told me once, "The only way to survive this family is to stop expecting them to change. Lower your expectations to the floor, and then bury them 6 feet under." She was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it back then. I was still trying to buy their love, their approval, with that monthly $1,000 wire transfer. The catalyst for everything, the moment the entire teetering tower of dysfunction came crashing down, happened about 2 months before the wedding. I was up to my eyeballs in seating charts and caterer tastings. Ben and I were paying for the wedding ourselves, a fact I was immensely proud of. It was ours. Then, the text came from my mom. "Family meeting at our house tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's important. Be there." My blood ran cold. In my family, important and family meeting used in the same sentence had a 100% correlation with something for Liam. It was never, "We're taking a family vacation," or "We're so proud of Maya." It was always, "Liam has a new plan, and we all need to support him." A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. Ben, sensing my anxiety, rubbed my back. "Just hear them out. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together. It's probably nothing." I wanted to believe him, but he didn't grow up in this house. He didn't know the script. When I pulled up to my parents' house the next evening, I saw Chloe's car already parked out front. That was the second red flag. If my mom had summoned Chloe too, this wasn't just a normal level of ridiculousness. This was a code red, all hands on deck level of insanity. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked in. The scene in the living room was so staged, it was almost comical. The TV, which was almost always blaring some true crime show, was muted. The silence was oppressive. Dad was in his worn recliner, not even pretending to watch the silent screen, just staring into the middle distance. Aunt Carol was perched on the very edge of the sofa, back ramrod straight, her hands clasped in her lap like she was awaiting royal decree. And Liam was slouched in the matching armchair, one leg thrown over the armrest, looking bored and entitled, as if this entire meeting was beneath him. His throne. My mom stood in the center of the room, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She was clearly the ringmaster for this particular performance. Chloe was sitting in a hardback chair in the corner, physically as far from everyone as she could get. Her arms were folded, her jaw was set, and her face was a perfect mask of simmering, cynical fury. She caught my eye as I walked in and gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Her look screamed, "Just wait. You are not going to believe this shit." "Sit down, Maya," my mom said, her voice coated in a layer of fake, cloying sweetness that she always used when she was about to ask for something monstrous. I sat on the very edge of the sofa, as far from Aunt Carol as possible. I glanced at Chloe, who raised her eyebrows, and then I braced myself for impact. Mom began, painting on a wide, unconvincing smile. "You know how much we all love Ben, and we're just so thrilled for your big day. It's gonna be so beautiful." I decided to cut the small talk. For me and Ben, right? Just making sure we're all on the same page about whose wedding it is. My voice was tighter than I intended. Liam snorted a quiet, condescending laugh. Aunt Carol leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a kind of zealous fervor. "Family should share in happiness, dear. It's only right. Joy is meant to be multiplied, not hoarded." The preamble was over. Liam sat up a little straighter, a smug look on his face. "Yeah, so I've been thinking. I want to propose to Sarah at your wedding." The words hung in the air. For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. I looked at my mom, at Aunt Carol, at my dad, who was now intensely studying a loose thread on his recliner. None of them looked surprised. This was the plan. This was the important thing. Liam continued, as if he were presenting a brilliant business plan. "I want to do it right after the first dance. The mood will be perfect, everyone will be there, all the family. It'll be so romantic. She'll never see it coming." I let out a short, sharp, utterly humorless bark of laughter. "Oh, I see. Should I just hand her my bouquet and let her do the garter toss too?" Maybe Ben and I can just slip out the back, and you two can take our place at the head table. Liam's smug grin evaporated, replaced by a petulant scowl. Mom frowned deeply. Don't be dramatic, Maya. It's just one moment. You'll still have your entire day, your vows, your first dance, everything. Liam just wants to share in the love. It's a beautiful thing. Chloe finally broke her silence, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mom, are you hearing the words coming out of your own mouth? Maya is paying for this entire wedding herself. She and Ben have been saving for 2 years. And you're seriously asking her to let Liam hijack her reception to make it his personal, budget-friendly engagement party? Quote, hijack. Aunt Carol snapped. The word like a whip crack. What a vile, selfish word to use. He wants to add to the joy. He wants to be part of his sister's happiness. He can add to the joy at a park or a restaurant, or literally any of the other 364 days in the year. Chloe shot back, her voice rising. Why does it have to be on Maya's dime, at her wedding? Because it's perfect, Liam said, as if he were explaining basic arithmetic to a toddler. I can't afford to rent out a fancy venue or anything. This way, it's already perfect for Sarah. The decorations, the music, the people. It's all there. I leaned forward, my hands gripping my knees. I made sure my voice was low, clear, and left no room for negotiation. No, it is not happening. Not during the ceremony. Not at the reception. Not in the goddamn parking lot. Nowhere. The answer is no. Mom's voice lost all its fake sweetness and turned sharp and cold. Why are you always so difficult? Why does everything have to be a fight with you? Liam is worried Sarah might break up with him. This could save their relationship. Can't you be generous for once in your life? Chloe let out a loud, derisive scoff. If your relationship is so fragile that it depends on hijacking someone else's wedding to survive, then it's already dead and buried. That's not a relationship, that's a hostage situation. Aunt Carol turned her venom on Chloe. You have always been so cold-hearted, so jealous. Your brother is fragile right now. He needs our support. Something inside me, a dam that had been building for 28 years, finally burst. No, I said, my voice shaking with a rage I'd never let myself feel before. I've just always been the one expected to foot the bill for his fragility. And speaking of bills, I stood up. All eyes were on me. The room was silent, except for my own pounding heart. That $1,000 a month I send you to keep this house standing? The $1,000 that has been my financial cross to bear while Prince Liam here contributes nothing? That stops now. As of today, you can consider this my last payment. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. My dad finally looked up from his recliner, his eyes wide, with something that looked like shock, or maybe fear. Mom looked utterly stunned, her mouth slightly agape. You can't do that. We need that money. The payment is due next week. Then you should have thought twice before trying to give my wedding away to Liam, I said, my voice ice cold. I turned and started walking toward the front door. Aunt Carol found her voice, and it was shrill. You'll regret this, Maya. You'll live to regret this. Blood is thicker than water. I stopped at the door and turned back to look at them one last time. My entitled brother, my delusional aunt, my shocked mother, my silent father. Yeah, I said, my voice firm. Well, it's time I put my future family first, Ben and me. You can all live with the son you've created. As I yanked the door open, Chloe stood up. She didn't say a word to me. She just looked at our family, her expression one of pure, unadulterated disgust. For the first time in my life, she said, her voice clear and cutting, I agree with Maya 100%. You should all be deeply, profoundly ashamed of yourselves. Then she followed me out, closing the door softly behind her, leaving a silence behind us that felt heavier than any shouting match ever could. The drive home was a blur. My hands were shaking so badly I had to pull over twice. The confrontation had been terrifying and exhilarating all at once. I had drawn a line in the sand, and I had used the only leverage I had, my wallet. I felt a giddy sense of freedom, immediately followed by a crushing wave of guilt. What if they really lose the house? But then I remembered Liam's smug face, my mom's audacious request, and the guilt hardened back into resolve. When I got home, Ben took one look at my face and wrapped me in a hug. I didn't even have to explain. I just muttered, "It's done." I cut them off, into his shoulder, and he held me tighter. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. It was long overdue. The fallout was immediate and relentless. The morning after the blow-up, my phone started buzzing before I'd even had my coffee. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Then Aunt Carol. Then Mom again. A symphony of demand. I finally picked up on her fourth attempt, just to get it over with. "Maya," she started, her voice already sharp and accusatory, bypassing any greeting. What on earth were you thinking? You made your Aunt Carol cry last night. She was up all hours, so upset. Do you even care what this is doing to her? To me? I sat down at my kitchen table, put her on speakerphone, and rubbed my temples. Mom, let's be very clear. Liam tried to hijack my wedding. You supported him. He then showed up at my house. I hadn't even mentioned that part to Ben yet. And screamed at me. And you're worried about Aunt Carol's feelings? Her hurt feelings are a direct result of her trying to steamroll me. That's not my problem. She's your elder. You can't talk to her that way. She's hurt, Maya. Deeply hurt. Her voice dropped into that guilt-tripping tone she had perfected over a lifetime. Family is about sacrifice. You've always been so cold about these things. Liam just wants a moment. A single, beautiful moment. You don't lose anything by letting him have it. I actually laughed. A dry, cracked sound. I don't lose anything? I lose the one day in my entire life that is supposed to be exclusively about me and the man I love. I lose respect. I lose my sanity. And I lose $1,000 a month while I'm at it. So yeah, I'd say I lose plenty. Her voice spiked with fury. There it is again. You keep throwing that money in our faces. You're weaponizing it. You're using it to control us. I'm stopping it. I corrected her, my voice flat. There's a difference. A weapon is a threat. I'm just ceasing to fund a situation I no longer wish to be a part of. I'm refusing to keep paying for Liam's lifestyle, and your refusal to hold him accountable. She let out a frustrated huff. You'll regret this. When we lose this house, when the bank forecloses, it will be on your conscience. You will have to live with that. And that was the final straw. The attempt to lay their financial ruin at my feet. No, Mom, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. It will be on Liam's. You took out a second mortgage for him, not for me. You kept bailing him out. You created this monster. You made your choice a long time ago. And now, I'm making mine. She hung up on me. The dial tone was a satisfying period at the end of the sentence. Not 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with Aunt Carol's name. Against every instinct of self-preservation, I answered. Her voice was theatrically watery and weak, the victim act in full force. Maya dear, I just don't understand. I don't understand why you're being so cruel. Your brother, he's sensitive. His heart is in the right place. He just wanted a chance to be happy. Why can't you let him be happy? Why do you have to stand in his way? Because it's my wedding, Aunt Carol, not his community venue. You don't get to donate my once-in-a-lifetime event to him because he's feeling sentimental. You're young, she wheedled. You'll have other days, other celebrations. Kyle, he might not get this chance again. He needs this. That one actually stunned me into silence for a second. The sheer, unadulterated absurdity of it. So, let me get this straight, I said slowly. My jaw so tight it ached. I'm supposed to deliberately ruin my own wedding day because my 31-year-old brother might not be able to get his act together to propose on his own? That is literally the most insane thing I have ever heard. She pressed on, her voice hardening. You've always been difficult. Even as a little girl, so stubborn, always questioning, always making trouble. Liam was the good boy. The sweet one. You were just hard. I felt the last vestiges of my patience evaporate. Are you really sitting there, rewriting our entire childhood history right now? Liam wrecked the car. Not me. Liam dropped out of college. Not me. Liam is 31 years old and still mooching off his parents and his aunt. Not me. And you're still sitting here, calling him the good one? What planet are you on? Watch your tongue, young lady. She snapped, the victim act vanishing. I have done nothing but love you and support this family. Love? I fired back, a memory surfacing with crystal clarity. Is that what you call it? You called Ben before we were even engaged and told him I was trouble and that he should keep his eyes open with me. Don't you dare deny it. He told me everything. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. A stunned silence. Then, sputtering. That's not how I meant it. I was looking out for him. No, I cut her off, my voice trembling with a final, definitive rage. That's exactly how you meant it. And you know what? That was the last straw. You don't get to lecture me about family while you've spent my entire life undermining me and praising Liam for the basic act of breathing. You don't get a say in my life anymore. She started crying again, loud, performative sobs, calling me ungrateful and cruel. I didn't wait for the encore. I hung up the phone, my entire body shaking. Ben had been listening from the kitchen doorway. He walked over, put a steadying hand on my shoulder, and squeezed. Good, he said simply. It was about time you stopped letting her get under your skin. You were magnificent. I exhaled a breath I felt like I'd been holding for decades. I shouldn't have let her get to me like that. Maybe not, he said. But you did. And you said what needed to be said. And now it's done. No more. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. Mom's blowing up my phone too. Guess the golden boy ran to her crying again. You okay? I called her back. She answered on the first ring with a weary sigh. Hey, you were right yesterday. They are absolutely relentless. But for what it's worth, I don't blame you one bit for going off on Aunt Carol. She's been feeding Kyle that special boy crap for decades. She's the root of half this problem. I know, I said, slumping onto my sofa. But what really pushed me over the edge was what she said to Ben. Jack told me months ago, but I just shoved it down. Hearing her play the victim today, it just all came out. Chloe's voice was hard, then let her cry. She made her choice a long time ago. She doesn't get to demand your wedding on top of it. Thanks, Chloe, I said, and I meant it. It's good to know I'm not the crazy one here. You're not, she replied firmly. Honestly, if they keep pushing me to talk sense into you, I'm out too. I'm done letting them use us as emotional punching bags and ATMs. I have my own life to live. We hung up. And for the first time in that entire miserable week, I didn't feel completely outnumbered. I had Ben. I had Chloe. It was us against them. And for the first time, us felt stronger. The next day, Ben and I made it official. We sat down with our venue coordinator, a kind, no-nonsense woman named Brenda. We handed her a printed, bullet-pointed list of rules. No surprise announcements of any kind. No unplanned speeches. Only the best man, Ben's brother Marcus, and maid of honor, my best friend Sophia, are on the program. Under no circumstances is anyone other than the designated DJ to be given the microphone. These rules apply to everyone, with no exceptions. Is that really necessary? Brenda asked, her eyebrows raised. Yes, Ben said, his voice firm and leaving no room for doubt. It is very, very necessary. That night, we emailed the same rule sheet to our immediate family. Chloe texted back a single thumbs-up emoji. My dad didn't reply. My mom's response was a terse, "We'll see." Aunt Carol didn't even bother with words. She just sent a single, dramatic thumbs-down emoji. I showed it to Ben and shook my head. This isn't over. They're just regrouping. He kissed my cheek. Then we'll be ready when they try again. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a strange, tense limbo. The $1,000 payments stopped. The silence from my parents' house was louder than any argument. Ben and I poured our energy into finalizing the last details, and I tried to focus on the excitement, but the dread was a constant, low hum in the background. We didn't just rely on the venue staff. We hired a private security guard, a large, calm man named Frank, and gave him a photo of Liam with strict instructions. The wedding day itself arrived with a surreal, dreamlike quality. The weather was perfect. Our venue was a beautiful rustic barn with string lights and a small pond out back. Simple, elegant, and exactly what we wanted. Guests started arriving. Ben's family was wonderful, warm, punctual, and genuinely happy. My side was a spectacle. Aunt Carol showed up in a floor-length, sequined lavender gown that looked like it belonged at the Met Gala. Liam slunk in wearing a cheap, ill-fitting suit that was both too short in the sleeves and too baggy in the pants. Clearly a last-minute thrift store find. He looked miserable and angry. Chloe, who was my bridesmaid, gave me a wide-eyed look as soon as she saw them. "Showtime," she muttered under her breath. "Get ready." The ceremony, however, was perfect. As I walked down the aisle on my dad's arm, he at least had shown up, quiet and somber. I saw Ben waiting for me, and everything else melted away. For 20 minutes, there was no Liam, no Mom, no Aunt Carol. There was just us. Our vows, the exchanging of rings, and the kiss that sealed it. It was everything I'd hoped it would be. The reception started, and the tension slowly began to creep back in. The rule sheet was taped discreetly behind the bar. The DJ knew the deal. Frank was positioned near the entrance, looking calm but alert. The speeches began. Marcus was hilarious and heartfelt. Sophia made me cry with her kind words. We were laughing, relaxing, starting to believe we'd actually pulled it off. That's when I saw him. Liam stood up from his table at the far end of the room. Rachel was beside him, and she looked pale and uncomfortable, her body language screaming that she wanted to be anywhere else. Aunt Carol was leaning over, whispering furiously in his ear, nudging him forward. He started making a beeline for the DJ's microphone. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ben tensed beside me. I didn't wait. I stepped forward, intercepting him before he could get there. "Liam," I said, my voice calm but carrying. "Sit down." He ignored me, his eyes fixed on the mic. "I just need a minute. 1 minute, that's all." The DJ, following our instructions, moved to block him, but Aunt Carol actually stepped in his way, waving her cane. "Let him speak. He's family. He has a right." Liam shoved past and grabbed the microphone. It screeched with feedback. Everyone, hey everyone, I have something important to say. The room, which had been filled with the warm buzz of conversation, went dead silent. All eyes swiveled to him. I could feel 100 pairs of eyes on me, waiting to see what the bride would do. I didn't yell. I didn't panic. I walked to the maid of honor's microphone, picked it up, and my voice was clear, cool, and projected across the entire barn. Quick PSA, folks, I said, a faint, forced smile on my face. This isn't open mic night. If you didn't pay for the venue, the food, or the rings, sit down. A ripple of surprised, nervous laughter ran through the crowd. Liam's face turned a blotchy, furious red. He held the mic tighter. No, listen, this is important. Rachel, I love you. And then, the miracle happened. Rachel stood up so fast her chair screeched backwards on the wooden floor. Liam, stop. Her voice was loud, shaking with a mixture of embarrassment and fury. He froze, mic in hand, looking utterly bewildered. Her voice trembled, but grew stronger. I told you I didn't want this. I told you for weeks I didn't want a public proposal, and I specifically, explicitly told you not to do it at your sister's wedding. And you still did it. The guests started whispering. You could feel the secondhand embarrassment radiating through the room. Liam's eyes darted around, desperate. Babe, just let me finish. No, Rachel said, her voice firm now. The answer is no. I'm done. We're done. She grabbed her purse from the table, shot me a look that was pure apology, and practically ran out of the barn. The silence that followed was heavier than any I'd ever experienced. Then, a few people, I think it was Ben's cousins, started clapping. Slowly, others joined in. It wasn't a happy applause. It was an applause of vindication, of second-hand relief. Aunt Carol looked like she'd just swallowed a live hornet. Liam's face completely crumpled. The mic slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a deafening thud. He turned to me, his eyes blazing with pure, undiluted hatred. You, he seethed, pointing a shaking finger at me. You ruined this. You ruined everything. I shook my head, feeling a profound, bone-deep calm. No, Liam, you ruined it the moment you decided my wedding was yours to use. You weren't invited to be the headline act. Don't blame me because she finally saw you for who you are. More whispers. More chuckles. His public humiliation was complete. He took a step toward me, and I saw a flash of something dangerous in his eyes. But before he could move another inch, Frank was there. The 2 security guards moved in smoothly, taking him firmly by each arm. You can't do this, he yelled, struggling as they started to pull him away from the dance floor. I'm family. Exactly, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And family should know better. That line got actual, genuine applause. People clapped, laughed, some even cheered. Ben squeezed my hand, a huge, relieved grin spreading across his face. As security escorted us screaming, flailing Liam out of the barn, of course, Aunt Carol wasn't done. She stood up, her sequined dress shimmering under the lights, her voice a shrill shard of glass. You selfish little brat. You humiliated your brother. You're a disgrace to this family. I turned toward her, gave her my sweetest, most bridal smile and said, Security, please help my aunt find her Uber. The laughter that followed was louder and more cathartic than anything that had come before. Even people from my own side of the family, who usually stayed silent, were shaking their heads and chuckling. Aunt Carol sputtered, called me ungrateful one last time, and stormed out after Liam, her cane tapping furiously on the floor. The rest of the reception was, against all odds, smooth and joyful. The tension had broken. We danced, we ate. Marcus made fun of my dad dancing, and Ben, finally, truly relaxed. Every time someone raised a glass, they toasted us. Not Liam, not Aunt Carol, us. At one point, Chloe leaned over, her eyes sparkling. That was the most beautiful, epic shutdown I have ever witnessed in my entire life. Worth every single penny you spent on that security guard. I laughed, the sound real and free for the first time all day. I should have sold tickets. The night ended the way it was always meant to. Ben and I were surrounded by our friends, and the part of my family that actually cared. Chloe, a few cousins who had been on my side all along. Liam was gone. Aunt Carol was fuming somewhere. And as Ben and I drove away in a shower of sparklers held by our loved ones, I felt a weight lift off my soul. The day had, in the end, belonged to us. But I wasn't naive. As we drove off into the night, I knew it wasn't the end, not with my family. My mom had been suspiciously quiet throughout the whole reception, sitting stony-faced at her table. She hadn't made her move yet, and if there was one thing I'd learned growing up, it's that my mother never, ever, stays quiet for long. The morning after the wedding, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls, voicemails, A long, rambling text from my mom about the mortgage being due and how I had destabilized everything. I ignored them all. Ben and I left for a short, blissful honeymoon at a cozy cabin, and I turned my notifications off. The real fallout began when we returned. It started with a text from Chloe. "Mom's going ballistic. The bank sent a warning letter. You might want to call her before she drives to your house and camps on the lawn." I steeled myself and called her. She launched straight in, "No hello, no congratulations. We're 2 months behind, Maya. The bank is talking about foreclosure. This is because of you. Your selfishness is going to leave us homeless. After everything we've done for you, can't you find it in your heart to be generous? To be a daughter." I took a deep breath. This time, I wasn't going to yell. I was just going to state facts. "Mom, my help ended the moment you and Aunt Carol tried to hand my wedding over to Liam. The only adult living in your house rent-free for the past decade is the one who should start paying his fair share. I'm not your solution anymore. He is." There was a long, icy silence on the other end. "Fine," she said, her voice cold enough to freeze hell. "If that's how you want it." And she hung up. I barely had time to put the phone down before it buzzed again. It was a group text to the entire extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. It was from Aunt Carol. "I cannot believe what Maya did to poor Liam at her wedding. She deliberately humiliated him in front of his girlfriend and all those people. She has turned her back on her parents, who gave her everything, and is letting them lose their home. Shameful behavior. I don't understand why she is so cruel." My heart sank. The public smear campaign had begun. A few cousins immediately replied with the predictable, "So sorry, Aunt Carol," and "Family should stick together." But then, something amazing happened. My cousin Jessica, who I've always been close with, replied, "Honestly, Aunt Carol, from what I heard, Liam was way out of line. You don't propose at someone else's wedding. Maya and Ben deserved their day." Another cousin, Mark, chimed in. "Yeah, Grandma always said you shouldn't air dirty laundry in public." Maybe this is between them. The support was small, but it was there. It was enough to shut Aunt Carol up for a few hours. I wasn't completely alone in the wider family. That evening, I got a direct text from Liam. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I'll never forgive you for this." I typed back, my fingers steady. "You embarrassed yourself. I warned you 100 times. Your failure to listen is not my responsibility." Then, I did something I should have done years ago. I blocked his number. The most surprising call came that night. It was from my dad. He almost never called me directly. He said, his voice quiet, hesitant. I wanted to say, "You're right." I was so stunned I couldn't speak for a moment. "Right about what, Dad?" He sighed, a heavy, weary sound that seemed to carry the weight of years. "About Liam. About how we raised him. We should have pushed him harder. Should have made him get a job in high school. Should have made him pay rent years ago. I shouldn't have let your mother and Carol protect him from everything. I didn't know how to fight it." It was the closest thing to an apology and an admission of failure I had ever heard from him. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. It was validation. "I appreciate you saying that, Dad," I said softly. Meanwhile, Ben and I sat down at our kitchen table that night with a laptop. We opened a new spreadsheet. For the first time in years, we were budgeting without that massive $1,000 monthly drain. We calculated how much we could put into savings for a down payment on a house of our own. Seeing that number, our number, was exhilarating. Jack looked at me, a huge smile on his face. "Feels good, doesn't it?" And it did. It felt like freedom. Over the next week, Chloe became my chief intelligence operative. The pressure on my parents had forced their hand. They finally gave Liam an ultimatum. He had to start paying $500 a month in rent, plus split the utilities, or he had to move out. Liam, of course, lost his mind. He called it unfair, said they were ganging up on him, that he needed, quote, time to get on his feet. For the first time, my dad didn't back down. He told Liam he'd had a decade to get on his feet. Even my mom, faced with the cold, hard reality of foreclosure, told him if he didn't like it, he could leave. Emily filled me in over the phone. He's been sulking in his room for days like a teenager. Won't talk to anyone except Aunt Carol. He keeps saying you turned everyone against him. Good, I said, and I meant it. Maybe a little reality will be good for him. Chloe laughed bitterly. Don't hold your breath. A few days later, Aunt Carol tried one last, desperate power play. She organized a family healing dinner at her house and sent a mass text. We need to come together and heal these wounds. Liam is hurting. Maya owes him an apology. Chloe called me immediately. Do not even think about going. It's a trap. Don't worry, I said. I wouldn't waste the gas. Instead, I sent one final message to the group chat. There will be no apology. Liam tried to steal my wedding, and Aunt Carol supported it. You all crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. If you can't respect simple boundaries, don't expect me to show up. Then, I left the group chat. The silence was telling. Not a single person replied to defend them. The next morning, my mom sent me a short, simple text. "You're destroying this family." I stared at it for a long time. The guilt tried to resurface, but I beat it back. I typed back my final, definitive statement. "No, Mom. Liam and Aunt Carol did that a long time ago. I'm just done pretending otherwise." 2 weeks later, Chloe sent me a photo. She had driven past our parents' house. There, stuck in the front lawn, was a small, discreet sign. "Room for rent." She called me, her voice buzzing with gossip. They finally did it. Dad listed the spare room online. Mom's apparently furious about having a stranger in the house, but they don't have a choice. "The first payment is due next week. How's Liam taking it?" I asked. She snorted, throwing a tantrum worthy of a toddler. "He keeps saying it's his house too, and he, quote, deserves his privacy. But get this, Dad actually looked him in the eye and said, 'It's our house. You either pay rent like an adult, or you make room for someone who will.' That shocked me more than anything else. My passive father had finally found his spine. Within a week, they had a tenant, a quiet, serious graduate student named David, who paid his rent on time and kept to himself. Liam complained nonstop about the noise, the shared bathroom, the invasion of his space. Finally, after one too many complaints, my mom snapped at him. "That stranger is helping us pay the mortgage." "You're not." Chloe texted me a play-by-play of his meltdown. I can't lie, it was deeply, profoundly satisfying. Aunt Carol, seeing her influence wane, tried one last pathetic move. One Saturday, she showed up unannounced at mine and Ben's apartment. She knocked on the door for a full 5 minutes, then started yelling through it. "Maya, open this door right now. You can't avoid me forever. We are family." Ben was in the living room, reading. He looked at me and shook his head, a small smile on his face. I walked over to the door but didn't open it. "Grandma," I said, my voice calm and clear through the wood. "You need to leave. You are not welcome here." She yelled back, "You broke my heart. You abandoned your brother. You're a bad granddaughter. You'll be sorry." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't engage. I just said, "You chose Liam. You live with the consequences." Then I closed the living room blinds. She left a handwritten note in our mailbox, scrawled on floral stationery, about how I'd regret this when she was dead and gone. I read it once, felt nothing, and threw it straight into the kitchen trash. That same night, Ben printed our favorite wedding photo, the one of us laughing uncontrollably on the dance floor, completely lost in our own joy. There was no Liam, no Aunt Carol in the background. It was just us. He bought a simple silver frame and hung it on the wall in our living room. "This," he said, putting his arm around me, "is what matters." And he was right. A few days later, my dad called again. His voice was quieter, but there was a new strength in it. "Maya," he said, "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you." "Proud of me?" I repeated, confused. "For standing up to them, for doing what I never had the courage to do. You stood your ground." It's what I should have done years ago. For once, I didn't feel the need to argue or downplay it. I just let the words sink in. "Thanks, Dad," I said. "That means a lot." My mom stayed distant. She sent the occasional, cold text, "Hope you're happy," or "We're struggling because of your choice." But I stopped replying. I had said all I needed to say. Chloe, emboldened by my example, got bolder herself. She stopped going to Aunt Carol's manipulative dinners, stopped answering Liam's late-night, ranting texts, and told my mom directly during one phone call, "I'm done with the favoritism. If you can't respect Maya and her boundaries, then you lose me too." From what Chloe told me, that was the blow that really shook my mom. It wasn't just her difficult daughter pulling away. It was her easy one too. The foundation of her narrative was cracking. Liam, stripped of his enablers, continued to spiral. When the tenant's rent covered part of the mortgage, my dad told Liam his contribution was no longer optional. It was mandatory. Liam exploded again, accusing everyone of ganging up on him, claiming I had poisoned them all against him. No one bought it, not even my mom. Eventually, he started disappearing for days at a time, crashing on a friend's couch or, when she'd allow it, at Aunt Carol's. But even her patience seemed to be wearing thin. Chloe told me one night, "Aunt Carol is complaining to Mom that Liam eats all her food, never helps with chores, and just plays video games all day. I guess the special boy isn't so special when you have to clean up after him full time." For the first time in my life, I felt not a single ounce of guilt. Not a twinge. A week later, I sent one last, definitive group message to my immediate family. Mom, Dad, Chloe, and I left Aunt Carol and Liam out of it. Jack and I are building our life together. Our door is open to those who can respect us, our marriage, and our boundaries. That means no more surprise announcements, no more guilt trips, no more financial demands. If you want to be a normal, respectful part of our lives, you are welcome. If not, that's your choice, and we will live with it peacefully. Chloe texted me privately right after. Best message ever. Clear, firm, and unapologetic. No one else replied, and that was an answer in itself. That weekend, Ben and I sat on our couch, looking at the framed wedding photo on the wall. He leaned his head on my shoulder and said, "You know, we might have lost some family, but we gained something so much better." "What's that?" I asked. "Peace," he said simply. I nodded, leaning into him. "And that's worth more than $1,000 a month. It's priceless." For the first time in my life, I wasn't the backup plan, the afterthought, the reliable wallet told to be generous. I was just Maya, wife to Ben, sister to Chloe, daughter to a father, who was finally, slowly, waking up. Liam could sulk. Aunt Carol could stew in her bitterness. My mom could stay mad. None of it mattered anymore, because I had drawn my line in the sand. And for once, I wasn't stepping back. I was building a beautiful, peaceful life on my side of it. Epilogue, 6 months later. Life has settled into a rhythm I didn't think was possible. Ben and I go house hunting every weekend. It's our new favorite pastime. We drive through neighborhoods, debating the merits of a big backyard versus a modern kitchen. A fixer-upper we can make our own versus a move-in-ready new build. It feels normal. It feels ours. Chloe comes with us sometimes, and we end up laughing in the middle of empty living rooms, making up stories about the people who lived there before. She jokes that she's our unofficial, unpaid realtor, but I know she just loves being a part of building something new, something away from the toxic atmosphere of our childhood home. As for Liam, the updates from Chloe and my dad are sporadic and unsurprising. He drifts between low-wage jobs, quitting each one after a few weeks, blaming stress or idiot managers. He's still mostly living at Aunt Carol's, but the shine has well and truly worn off. The brilliant boy is now just a messy, entitled houseguest. Rachel, I heard through the grapevine, started dating someone else almost immediately and is apparently very happy. Good for her. Aunt Carol still sends me a guilt-soaked voicemail about once a month. "Family is all you have, Maya. Don't turn your back on us. You'll regret it one day." I don't respond. I let them sit in my voicemail for a week. Then I delete them. Ben says the act of ignoring her is the healthiest boundary I've ever set. He's right. My mom is quieter than she's ever been. The fight seems to have gone out of her. She sometimes texts Chloe instead of me, passive-aggressively asking how I'm doing, hoping Chloe will be a messenger. Chloe usually ignores her, or replies with a breezy, "She's great," and changes the subject. Dad calls me every now and then. Our conversations are short. About work, the weather, sometimes about how the tenant David is quiet and fixed a leaky faucet. It's surface level, but it's civil. Once, he mentioned that without my monthly payments, they'd had to finally confront their finances, and that it was quote, hard but necessary. It was his way of saying thank you. Ben and I celebrated 6 months of marriage by ordering takeout and watching a movie on the couch. No drama, no shouting, no frantic phone calls. Just us. I told him I felt like I'd finally snipped the last, invisible strings that were tying me to a circus I never asked to join. He kissed my forehead and said, "Told you you could do it." Chloe texted me a photo a few days ago. It was a secretly taken picture in Aunt Carol's living room. Liam was passed out on the couch in the middle of the afternoon, surrounded by empty soda cans and chip bags. The caption read, "The prodigal son, in his natural habitat, still figuring things out." I laughed so hard I cried. Ben came running in from the other room, worried, and I just showed him the phone. He started laughing too. For once, the joke wasn't on me. The punchline wasn't my pain or my bank account. And for the first time in years, I feel like my story isn't about my brother or my mother or my aunt's endless excuses. It's about me. It's about Ben. It's about Chloe. It's about the life we're actively choosing to build, without dragging the heavy, rusty chains of the past behind us. Maybe my family of origin never changes. Maybe Liam will be forever figuring it out. But I've changed. I've stopped apologizing for wanting a life that is mine. I've stopped funding my own marginalization. And honestly, that's the happiest ending I could have ever asked for.